Israel Adesanya, one of the most charismatic and technically skilled fighters in mixed martial arts, MMA, made a highly anticipated return to the UFC Octagon at UFC 305 this past Saturday. The event, held in Perth, Australia, marked the end of an 11-month hiatus for Adesanya, a former middleweight champion whose absence from the sport had left fans eagerly awaiting his comeback. However, the night did not go as planned for the Last Stylebender, as he faced off against South African fighter Dricus Du Plessis in a match that would see the middleweight title slip further from his grasp. Adesanya, known for his striking prowess and unorthodox fighting style, started the fight on strong footing. Throughout the initial rounds, he showcased the skills that had once made him a dominant force in the middleweight division. As the fight progressed into the championship rounds, it appeared that Adesanya was still very much in contention. His movement was sharp, his striking precise, and his defense sound. By the time the fourth round began, many believed that the momentum was swinging in his favor and that a potential comeback was on the horizon. However, the tide turned rapidly in the fourth round. Du Plessis, who had been patient and calculated in his approach, managed to secure a takedown, a critical moment that led to a rear-naked choke submission. With this victory, Du Plessis retained the middleweight title, leaving Adesanya to grapple with the reality of his second consecutive defeat. Just moments before Du Plessis executed the takedown that would ultimately lead to his submission, Adesanya made a gesture that left many in the audience and even the commentators puzzled. He pointed to the ground, a move that immediately drew comparisons to a similar gesture made famous by UFC BNF baddest mother asterisk champion Max Holloway. Holloway first popularized the gesture during his 2016 fight against Ricardo Lamas, where he pointed to the ground as if to invite his opponent into an all-out brawl. The gesture has since become iconic, embodying the warrior's spirit and the willingness to engage in a no-holds-barred exchange. In the heat of the moment, many assumed that Adesanya's gesture was an attempt to channel Holloway's bravado, signaling his readiness to trade blows in a wild, unrestrained fashion. The gesture, which has become synonymous with Holloway's fearless fighting style, was even more popularized earlier this year, when Blessed Holloway used it again in his UFC 300 fight against Justin Gaethje. In that fight, Holloway pointed to the ground in the final moments, initiating a furious exchange that ended with him knocking Gaethje out with just 1 second left on the clock. The move was so iconic that Dutch professional MMA promotion, LFL, introduced a Max Holloway bonus feature rewarding fighters who dared to engage in similar high-risk exchanges by pointing to the ground during their bouts. Given this context, it was no surprise that fans and commentators alike immediately drew parallels between Adesanya's gesture and Holloway's famous move. It seemed like a call to arms, an invitation to Du Plessis to meet him in the center of the octagon and trade blows in an epic showdown. However, in the aftermath of the fight, Adesanya revealed that his gesture had a far more personal and symbolic meaning, one that was not directly related to Holloway's iconic move. In a post-fight interview, Adesanya opened up about the real reason behind his gesture, shedding light on what was going through his mind in those critical moments. He explained that the gesture was not an attempt to initiate a reckless exchange with Du Plessis, but rather a deeply personal message to himself and to those who have followed his journey in the UFC. According to Adesanya, pointing to the ground was his way of reminding himself to stay grounded, both literally and figuratively. It was a moment of introspection, a signal to focus on his roots, his foundation, and the fundamental principles that have guided him throughout his career. For Adesanya, the gesture was a call to remain present in the moment, to trust in his training and instincts, and to ground himself in the fundamentals of his craft. It was a stark reminder that, despite the pressure and the stakes of the fight, he needed to stay true to the skills and strategies that had brought him success in the past. This revelation added a layer of depth to what many had initially perceived as a simple act of bravado. It was not about initiating a wild brawl, but about centering himself in the midst of chaos, a concept that resonates deeply with martial artists who understand the importance of mental focus and discipline in the heat of battle.